All right, we see a couple of folks trickle in still, but we'll go ahead and get started with this webinar. So hello again, and welcome to this webinar on ERP 101. We've invited our friends from SAP to help explain our enterprise resource planning, and we're very much looking forward to hear from them in just a minute. My name is Mark Van Bree, and I'm the Partner Marketing Director here at ShipStation. First, wanted to walk you through today's agenda. So to get things started, we'll kick off with some housekeeping notes. And Brian, if you could hit the next slide, that would be great. We'll follow along with the agenda. We'll kick off with some housekeeping notes and introductions. Then the experts from SAP will take over, dive right into the content you're here for. They'll explain what ERP is, cover what you should consider in ERP, how ERP is useful to small business and e-commerce business, and we'll end with an amazing case study on Billy Footwear. After that, we'll open it up for some questions and answers, and wanted to begin with a few housekeeping notes. So on the next slide, we'll see all attendees are muted and your questions can be submitted via the question box. So on your GoToWebinar panel, you will see a question box. That's where you can answer or submit all your questions at any time during the presentation, and we'll tackle as many of those as we can during the Q&A session at the end. We've had a few questions from registrants already, so keep them coming. It's great to hear. If you have any technical webinar questions about audio or anything else, we'll do our best to answer those directly via the question box as well. This webinar will be recorded, so we'll email you when it's available for viewing on ShipStation.com. And lastly, you can download some of the resources discussed here during the presentation from the GoToWebinar panel directly. You should see a handout of the Billy Footwear case study there for you to download as well. So wanted to introduce our panelists today. Who do we have with us today? Wanted to start off by saying thank you to our friends at SAP for joining us today. Their expertise in the ERP space will be invaluable on today's call. Walking us through the presentation will be Brian McPhail, the Senior Director of Strategic Alliances and Customers at SAP. Brian oversees alliances and customers in North America in SAP's small and medium enterprise ERP platform. And he brings a wealth of leadership experience in P&L, M&A, sales, operations. And also on the call, we have Michael Cardy and Modi Motion. They serve as solution architects experts at SAP, and they'll be able to provide some fantastic insights during our Q&A session as well. So once again, wanted to thank you so much. I wanted to thank these fine gentlemen at SAP for joining us today. I'm looking forward to diving right into the subject matter. And without any further delay, I'll give the floor to Brian. So Brian, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We've got a presentation with actually a fair amount of slides, which we're going to click through pretty rapidly, and because we want to leave enough room at the end of the webinar for to answer your questions if you have any, and they can be any kind of question you would like to ask. Don't get self-conscious. Please feel free to ask anything. All right. A month ago, SAP and ShipStation announced that we're collaborating to provide integrated solutions for small and medium enterprises. By integrating ShipStation and SAP, you can do more efficiently and consistently to achieve your growth goals and provide superior customer satisfaction and brand experience. There's a lot to cover today, and I've only got about 40 minutes. So I'm going to talk a little fast, and we'll answer questions at the end of the webinar. Okay, let's start. SAP is almost 50 years old. We were founded, by the way, I'm just setting the stage here now. We're going to try to make this webinar about ERP, not about SAP, and not about our products, because we want to provide a service and, candid information to you. So SAP is about 50 years old. We were founded in Germany by 5 entrepreneurs who left their jobs at IBM because they had a big idea. The idea was to integrate the core processes of businesses, helping businesses to grow and to produce higher profits and to achieve better quality with higher customer satisfaction. SAP is a leader in ERP, brand experience and customer experience, e-commerce, analytics and business intelligence, and database technology. We've got over 440,000 customers. In fact, it's been estimated that over 70% of all the world's transactions touch an SAP system, meaning from companies that mine minerals, to companies that produce plastics, to companies that produce airplanes, companies that fly the airplanes, companies that make consumer goods, industrial goods, construction goods, ship them to you, sell them to you. 70% of all those transactions touch an SAP system. We had over $32 billion in revenue last year. And we've got 22,000 partners with 2 million partner technical experts who visit our online community each month. Many of the largest companies you can think of run on SAP, but what many people don't know is that 80% of our customers are small and medium businesses. SAP's family of ERP platforms spans from the smallest to the largest companies, so you can grow with SAP. SAP Business One is our ERP platform for small and medium businesses. And it's available in the cloud, or for companies who would prefer not to be in the cloud, you can host it on-premise. Business One is also a market leader. We've got over 75,000 customers in 170 countries that run on Business One. This includes approximately 400 large enterprises that run over 5,000 of their subsidiaries on Business One. Most of these customers start with one location, but many grow to multiple locations, and some have hundreds of locations, all running SAP Business One. But perhaps most importantly for you, we invest a lot in developing a vibrant ecosystem of partners who provide solutions to small and medium businesses. These partners are experts in both information technology and the business processes that are being managed by that technology. They act as both process consultants and as an IT department for small businesses. Okay, today we hope to explain one of the three questions we hope to answer is, what is an ERP? And to start with, it stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. And while, as I said earlier, while we are all from SAP, we're going to try to make this webinar about ERP and not about SAP. Although from time to time, we'll use an example or two from our own product family. Enterprise Resource Planning includes the core app modules shown on the slide, on the screen. We call these end-to-end business processes, and the core are sales, materials requirement planning, resources to meet customer, which manages the resources to meet customer needs, purchasing, production, financials, and service. I said we manage the processes. We manage all the processes, as you can see here. There's a lot. We're not going to go through all these. But the point is that the purpose of an ERP is to automate the integration of these processes and their data. And that orchestrates the workflows across your business. And as a result, this creates, the end result is what we call a system of record. It becomes the single source of truth for your business. ERP also integrates the processes and data of specialized software products used by e-commerce sellers, like ShipStation, and e-commerce software like Shopify or Magento, Square, BigCommerce, etc., and marketplaces like Amazon and Walmart, and CRM software like Zoho, HubSpot, Salesforce, Delighted, etc. To customize your workflows, Business One, as an example, provides standard software widgets to design how your workflows will be orchestrated. For example, shown here are inventory management, purchasing, financials, and sales. And these widgets in the workbenches are customizable to meet the needs of your business. Here's an example of a customized workflow diagram. Now, this might look complicated, but it actually makes things simpler, especially as you improve workflows over time. Okay, the next question is that we agreed to explain during this webinar is, when should you consider an ERP? And we're just going to talk from our own experience. When we first meet small businesses, it's funny how they frequently say the exact same thing to us. They often tell us that they think, quote, they need something more, but they don't know exactly what it is. And the next few slides will illustrate a scenario showing what we've observed about when a small business should consider an ERP. Startups and small businesses usually don't plan the growth of their information technology systems. Instead, they do what's practical, and they add information technology as it's needed. Over time, they acquire a collection of individual apps to manage individual processes. And this is actually advantageous at the beginning because it allows the founders to integrate the separate processes actually in their heads, which drives agility and growth. And they can share that data and the results from one app to the other manually, frequently by cutting and pasting or emailing files to each other. And it works for a while. And it even forces you to talk to each other. But once a company reaches, in our experience, once a company reaches 5 to 6 employees, with each employee using their own app and managing their own processes that they're responsible for, things start getting complicated. And orchestrating the workflows gets really complicated, and it also gets unpredictable. And eventually, these separate processes become a costly liability. Their disconnectedness prevents the leadership of the business from having an accurate view of the whole business. As any ShipStation user knows, it can become tedious and error-prone to rely on manual data entry or copy and paste of data between different apps. And this is especially true when you have remote workers, mobile apps, and maybe even people in different geographies, like we've all experienced over the last 6 months, especially. If you continue like this, the complexity will increase, and the chaos will limit your growth and profitability, and it will also limit your customer satisfaction. And this is especially true as you add additional special purpose cloud apps. If you are experiencing this, this is the indicator that you should consider a system to tie it all together. And that's an ERP system. And that ERP system should include integrating your core cloud apps. The ERP will make it easier for you to orchestrate your people and processes instead of them being in conflict with each other. There's a reason we use the word workflows, because an ERP system makes work flow. And that makes your company smarter and faster, efficient and responsive, which drives growth and profitability. Okay, now we're getting to our third topic. And this is where there's actually going to be some detail here. Don't get worried about it, because we're just going to show you a top-level survey here. And that is, the third topic is, how is an ERP useful for a small and medium-sized business? And to kind of tell you the summary at the beginning is, simply put, it enables you to run your business as one by integrating your processes, which also makes it possible for you to gain a holistic view to manage opportunities and risks. This solidifies your foundation for growth, and it enables precision and consistency in your execution, which drives customer satisfaction and your brand value. Your brand is the sum of all the promises you keep. You make a promise and you keep it. You make a promise and you keep it. And over time, the promises you keep become your brand. The ERP is the platform that allows you to build your brand by assuring that your processes are keeping your promises. And we're going to show you now what these core processes are, and we're going to objectify them a little so that we'll show you their subcomponents and describe how they all work together. But making your business run as one is why we call our ERP for small and medium businesses SAP Business One. Okay, now we're going to quickly survey 5 of those core processes. And we got a few others that we've tacked on at the end if we have time, if time allows, to show you practically how they can be useful. You've got the sales process, the MRP process, the purchasing process, the production process, and the service process. The animation here is a little bit not completely flowing perfectly, but you get the gist. We think these are the core processes that most businesses run. Now, some businesses, some people on this call maybe don't do production. That's okay. The other processes still apply to you. If you do production, this is especially relevant for you. Okay, let's begin with the sales process. We call this the sales accounts receivable process because it's all part of the same end-to-end process. This one moves from selling the goods and services to delivering those goods, to invoicing the customer for their purchases, to the last step in accounting of receiving the incoming payment. The sales order is a commitment from a customer or lead to buy at agreed to quantities and price a product or service from you. The delivery indicates that the shipment of goods has occurred. The AR invoice is the only document that must be created in the sales process. It is the request for payment, and it records the revenue in the profit and loss statement. Okay, the incoming payment receives the payment from the customer and clears the customer account. And then the internal reconciliation takes place automatically. I hope this doesn't seem overly detailed, but what we're trying to show you here is that the reason these are all orchestrated is because they are end-to-end. And we actually have names for all of these processes. We have hundreds of them. We have hundreds of acronyms for them all, which I'm not going to bore you with today. But it's important to see that they're all connected together. Okay, let's talk about MRP. We're going to talk about this briefly. MRP stands for Materials Requirements Planning. This is for people who are doing production. And it's a tool for managing inventory effectively so that materials are available for production and products are available for sale when and where they are needed without having to keep overly high stock levels. MRP compares the future demand for items against the stock on hand and the planned supply from purchases, production, or items in other warehouses. Planned supply can include purchase orders, production orders, inventory transfer requests, and purchasing blanket agreements. And ERP takes care of all that. And existing demand comes from incoming sales and inventory needs and planned demand that is shown in your forecasts. In order to receive recommendations for buying, producing, or transferring items, you run the MRP wizard. The wizard generates recommendations for production orders, purchase orders, inventory transfers, recommendations that are required to produce or procure the final product on time and in the required quantity. MRP also takes into account defined planning rules like order multiples and minimum order quantity, and also required lead time for the supply or manufacturing of the item. And there are 3 information sources used in the MRP run, which are demand, stock, and on-hand supply. Stock on hand and supply. Demand tells us how much item quantity will be needed in the future. To meet the demands, the wizard looks at the stock on hand in both the warehouse and the expected supply. The expected supply of item quantity is derived from purchase orders and purchase requests, purchase quotations, blanket purchase agreements, production orders, and inventory transfers. And the MRP will recommend whether you should buy or transfer or make the quantity needed. Okay, an example shown here, you can see an illustration of the recommendations given by MRP. I'm going to not go into detail here, but I think you can all see this, and it's intuitive. If you want to come back and watch this webinar again, you can, or you can shoot us an email and we'll be happy to answer any questions you've got. All right, let's talk about the purchasing process. Purchasing is not just about ordering and paying for pencils and paper clips. Purchasing is the process of ensuring that a steady stream of required materials is on the way to your company when and where you need them. ERP also runs the purchasing process, starting with the purchase order and continuing with the rest of the purchasing documents. It automatically captures information at each step, so you always know what is on hand in inventory, as well as the up-to-the-minute financial state of your business. The real-time view helps you identify potential shortages before they happen. Precise historical information keeps track of which vendors come through for you consistently. The graphic shows the basic 4-part process of ordering, receiving, and paying for goods and services. The purchase order is the document you provide to the vendor, specifically the items or services you want to purchase, including agreed-to quantities and prices. It represents your commitment to the vendor to purchase the items. The goods receipt PO is the document that denotes the delivery of goods from a vendor. It is used to update the inventory quantities and values. The AP invoice is the document into which your accounts payable department enters the vendor's invoice information to request a payment to be made to that vendor. And the outgoing payment is the document which initiates a payment to the vendor account. There are, generally speaking, 4 ways of sending outgoing payments: cash, checks, credit cards, and bank transfers. There are also some additional country-specific payment methods. All right, let's talk about the production process. The production process starts with creating a production order. This is the main document in the production process. It records the progress of the production process for each item produced. But before work can begin, the production order must be released. At this point, the production order can begin collecting the costs of production. And there are 3 types of resources used in the production process. There's the machine type. This is a resource that can be linked to one or more fixed assets. Remember, ERP is called Enterprise Resource Planning. And one of the core capabilities is tracking the resources and what they are committed to, so that you have the right resources available at the right time to deliver on your commitments. So the machine time is the resource that can be linked to one or more fixed assets, taken from the fixed assets master data list. And the labor type, of course, is just what it says. It's a resource that can be linked to one or more employees who have the right skills to deliver on your commitments. And the other type is any other resource that is not a machine or labor, like components and subassemblies. All right, let's talk about warehouse management. I think this is going to be of interest to everybody on this call. Inventory management is critical for your business. And this graphic shows an overview of the different possibilities of stock movements, which are initiated from purchasing, production, and sales documents. And we can talk with you about it one of the things we expect people to ask questions about is how ShipStation is integrated to ERP, specifically our ERP Business One. And that a lot of that has to do with warehouse and inventory management. Let's get back to the slide. There are 3 basic inventory goods movements. The first is the goods receipt documents are used for receiving inventory that is not purchased or produced. One example might be receiving a sample from a vendor for inspection. And inventory transfers are used to move stock between warehouses. And goods issues can be useful for cases, for example, where items are damaged, perhaps by a flood in a warehouse. Okay, let's talk about the service process. We've broken it down into 3 general stages: creating the service call, responding to the customer issue, and resolving the problem. Again, we put an emphasis on customer experience and brand experience, and of course, service is a key part of that. In the service call process, you create a service call when a customer contacts you with a service-related issue. And the system searches for any contract with the customer. Then the service call is assigned to an employee to respond to the customer issue. The assigned service representative reviews all the information in the system and the service call and any history in the record, then diagnoses the problem and offers solutions. All actions are documented and they're all recorded in the History tab. And then if the issue cannot be resolved by the initial representative, you can use this to escalate to another technician. Technician activities can be created and managed inside the service call document. Any service expenses can be recorded and tracked in the call. And when the issue is resolved, close the service call and follow up with any service invoicing as appropriate. Okay, now we'd like to talk about something that's frequently goes underappreciated in its importance, and that's pricing. Businesses have needs for flexibility in pricing, and it ends up driving a lot of your value to your customers. You got to get the pricing right. You've got to update it in a timely manner. And different customers receive different prices based on the circumstances of the sale. For example, a one-time customer pays a higher price than a regular customer or one of your regular reselling partners. Similarly, a customer buying a larger volume will get a better price than a customer buying only one. And internet customers get a lower price than customers who need customer service inside a store. Now, ERP has different tools available to set up all these pricing capabilities. Price lists, period and volume discounts, discount groups, special prices for business partners, and specific blanket agreements are the core types. And the first and most basic way of pricing is price lists. And you can set up the price list for different groups of customers. Well, you do set them up. On each price list, you enter a price for each item and the units of measure. And then when a customer who belongs to that price list buys an item, they get the right price for their group. But a basic price for the product might not be enough. You might need to set up sale prices for a limited time period. You may also want to give a discount when a customer buys in volume. Period and volume discounts allow you to define discounts by dates and based on volume, based on an existing price list. The discounts entered here will override the basic price in the business partner's assigned price list. The unit of measure defined in the period and volume discounts must match the unit of measure specified in the document row for the discount to apply. The next level of pricing is the discount groups. You can add discounts based on item group, item properties, and items manufacturer. These types of prices are called discount groups. If a sales order line item is relevant for a discount group price, then that price will override a discount based on a period or volume discount. Sometimes you want to give an even better deal to your favorite customers. In that case, you can use special prices. You can base your discounts on any price list or simply enter them manually. You can define discounts by date range and quantities and units of measure. Special prices defined for a business partner, for example, override all other prices except blanket agreements. However, please note that the unit of measure defined in the special price must match the unit of measure specified in the row for the discount to apply. Okay, and blanket agreements allow you to negotiate items, quantities, and prices with a business partner for a certain validity period. And this negotiated price will override all other types of pricing. The four types of prices range from the most general price lists to the most specific special prices for business partners. All right, we've really done, even though that was a high level, it was a lot of detail. We'd like to zoom out now. This will be the last section of our presentation. We've told you what is an ERP, when should you consider an ERP, and how is it useful with some detail. Now we'd like to give you a real-world example. And to do that, we'd like to tell you about a really inspiring customer that uses the combination of SAP and ShipStation. They are called Billy Footwear. SAP and ShipStation and our partner OptiPro and our partner Alluvia are honored to have been chosen by Billy Footwear. You can download the case study about Billy Footwear today from this webinar console. And you can also find it on the ShipStation site. Billy Footwear, the company, its people, and its products truly do make the world a better place. And they are also inspiring to work with as a business. And that's because they've got a really clear purpose, and they innovate and execute, and they care for their customers, and they do that relentlessly to serve their purpose, and they do it as one. You can read the case study, as I mentioned earlier, and I think you'll find it useful. Billy Footwear bases its products and its culture on what they call universal design. And with that mindset, they created a uniquely innovative system for shoes that they call flip-top technology. Flip-top technology allows anybody to step into their shoe and simply zip it on. They've made it easy, and in fact, it looks dead simple, but it wasn't easy to get here. In fact, it took years. But its design is so universal that it's now loved by a whole range of people beyond whom they originally invented the shoe for. Moms with children, people recovering from an injury, elderly people, people who wear orthotics, and even hipsters who love their amazing designs. I've got a pair of the black high tops shown, and I wear them all the time, especially when I travel. As we said, they've got a purpose, and that's because Billy Footwear was born of a need. After Billy Price, unfortunately, broke his neck in a fall from a 3-story building when he was at college, and he was paralyzed from the chest down. You can imagine how, well, let's not get into it. You can imagine how horrible that was. But over time, he learned to do everything all over again. Drive a car, have a wonderful family, start a great business. He's indomitable. He's focused, but with a smile. One thing that always eluded him was tying his shoes, especially the kind of shoes he wanted to wear, and he wanted to wear the shoes that he wanted to wear. So as I said, he and his good friend Darren Donaldson invented the flip-top technology, and they co-founded Billy Footwear to create a mainstream shoe that's functional, fashionable, and inclusive for everybody. And equally important, this empowers people to express themselves and feel confident. All people. It turns out that a lot of people agree with Billy and Darren. And it turns out that they are onto something actually pretty huge. They started very small. And it really was just, inventing around the kitchen table and building prototypes. But then they decided to make it available to other people. Originally, they just built it for Billy. So they did a Kickstarter fundraising project, and the company started to grow and grow. And then they knew they needed something more. This was exactly what they said to us when we met them a little over a year ago. They needed a way to make all their disconnected processes work as one to support the growth rocket they were already riding, but they didn't know what that was. So a year ago, when we first met Billy and Darren, they only had 5 employees and no office, and in fact, we met at the public library. But they were using a financials product, and they were using a product for running an e-commerce website, and they had a product for taking orders with Zappos and Amazon and Macy's and Nordstrom's, and they had another product for running a portal for their boutiques to order through, but none of it was working together. So we met them about a year ago, and by January 1st, they were running ShipStation and Business One and their e-commerce site all integrated as one. And then they integrated in their EDI system, that's electronic data interconnect, for their big box orders, and their ordering system for their dealers. And this enabled them to open their new warehouse and have it running also on January 1. And 3 months after that, they doubled capacity by punching holes in the warehouse wall and taking over the space next door. And they did that with just the same warehouse manager. And it was all enabled by ShipStation and SAP Business One. And now they can sell and ship globally. And they can support a whole range of different sales channels and their own partner ecosystem to provide superior customer and brand experience. And as a sign of their success, in the upcoming Ghostbusters Afterlife movie, the star of the movie is wearing Billy Footwear. She's named McKenna Grace, and she has on a pair of Billy classic high tops, red, and you can see her in the promotional trailer. it's really a kick to see it. Now, I'm sure you'd like me to stop talking at this point, and Michael and Modi will be happy to give you straight answers to any questions you may have. And we mean any questions. Please let us know how we can help. Mark, I turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Brian. That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you for taking us through the ins and outs of ERP and giving us a high-level but detailed view of it. We did have a few questions come in, and to the attendees, I encourage everyone to keep coming with the questions. We're here to answer them. So to dive right into it, I think one question that came up was what's really meant with, I think you mentioned it earlier in the presentation, what's really meant with system of record? How is an ERP used for that, and why is it so valuable?
Michael, do you want to take that? Michael was previously a CFO and a director of finance for several companies. He's also a technical expert, but Michael, you might have a great perspective on that, I expect. Can you take that
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll feel that one, Brian. Look, the system of record is the one place that you look for the truth or the correct answer. I'm sure many of you have the experiences where you may have your website have a back end to it where it keeps track of your inventory counts. And maybe you also are using ShipStation and you're tracking inventory counts in ShipStation. And maybe you also have a software package that you use to figure out when it's time to place an order, right, to replenish. So what happens when you look at the inventory counts in all three of those places and your website tells you that you've got 60 blue widgets in stock, and ShipStation says you've got 55 widgets, blue widgets in stock, and your purchasing application, which could even just be an Excel spreadsheet, says that you've got 80 blue widgets in stock. Well, how many blue widgets do you have in stock? And compound that with the fact that maybe blue widgets take 45 days to replenish, and that you sell 60 per month. Well, depending on which one of those three numbers is right, if any of them are, you're either in a stock out position, or it's time to place an order, or you're good for another couple of weeks. With a single source of truth, a system of record, your inventory accounts across all locations, be it your website, maybe it's Amazon's doing fulfillment for you and they've got some of your inventory in stock there. So all of that comes into one single place, like in an ERP system, and you've got this single system of record that tells you exactly how many blue widgets you have in stock across all locations.
Thanks, Michael. Great answer.
So we've got a few more questions come in, and I think you touched on it just now a little bit as well. And of course, with the Billy Footwear case study, that was one of the real main challenges, right? It was managing their inventory, especially as they both had retail partners and they were selling directly to customers, pulling all from the same inventory count, making sure that that's what the system of record is, of course, right? So the question that came in, and maybe to dive a little bit more into the details of it, was can you explain how the inventory processes work with ShipStation and SAP together?
Modi, you were involved in designing that integration. Do you want to take that?
Sure, I can give it a try. So in general, as Mike mentioned so far, the SAP is taking care of being the single source of truth, and ShipStation is helping with the other areas that it needs, regardless if it's going to be sending out inventory to customers or receiving inventory in as raw material or finished goods that you want to put in your stock. So the integration itself that exists between SAP Business One and ShipStation allows the seamless transfer of information from, for example, so let's say if you're talking about this selling of inventory to customers. So the moment you have the information being recorded as an order that is being placed, this will flow to ShipStation, which will be able to create a delivery and then instruct of people in the warehouse to pick the inventory and then ship it out of the warehouse. And they're also the other way around. So if you have any receiving scenario, so you ordered some raw material, for example, to your stock, you have a purchase order that you created, and then when inventory received, it's been recorded within ShipStation and then could be placed in inventory. But yeah, so this is mainly the main flows, and probably we're talking about the order to cash. The flow will be of sales order creation, which will flow to ShipStation, and then from there will go out and be shipped from your warehouse.
So order to cash is one of those hundreds of processes, and we simply call it O2C, and it's an entire process from end to end. Okay.
That's great, and I think that there's it's not just orders flowing in, right, to ShipStation. It's also of course you manage kind of the fulfillment with ShipStation. Then there's needed information that goes back into the SAP system as well, right? And then from there back to selling channels. Is there a little bit more you could tell about that? I think we had a last question come in on kind of that side of things. So is there a little bit more?
I mean, like, for example, how would Shopify, for example, would also be involved in this, keeping the available goods updated? Is that what you're getting at, Mark?
Yes, for example, yeah.
Modi and Michael, who wants to take that?
So so with Shopify, I mean, I think this is the other way. So this is still the order to cash, right? So you have maybe an order that's coming. It could come from any type of e-commerce platform, or maybe some other portal that you have, and you have maybe an EDI even. So you have an order that is coming from outside, and then another system is actually creating an entry of a sales event in the ERP system, SAP Business One. So and then the moment this is being recorded, it's and as long as you have enough inventory, of course, this will flow to ShipStation, which will instruct the to the next step, which will be creation of the delivery itself and then shipping it out. But as I think as was also mentioned, the other path will also can be supported. So the receiving aspect of inventory as well, and putting it into your warehouse as well. So yeah, so both ways. But did this answer the question, you think, or?
Yeah, I think so. And I would definitely add to that. What we see a lot on the ShipStation side, working with, for example, the big marketplaces, is if you're more efficient on the fulfillment side, you actually get better seller ratings, you get better you get better standing with those marketplaces, right? So a lot of the core metrics that these marketplaces look at is, what's the fulfillment lag time? Are you overselling, right? That's a big no-no for those marketplaces. And are you providing tracking information back to the marketplace? Those are all core metrics that these marketplaces look at. So the better you do on that front, the higher you get up on the ratings and your rankings of your product, so the more you sell. So I think, you know, making sure that all of your processes are in line, making sure that you know, you have that source of truth, that system of record, and really make those processes more efficient, and you can start shipping out same day or within 24 hours. And you know, that should do wonders for kind of your marketplace ratings and sales volume. So I think you know, that really shows the value of getting this all together and streamlining it. So that's fantastic.
That's an excellent point, Mark. You know, obviously, I'm sure everybody who's here at the webinar knows and is dealing with inventory and the need to be able to have the right amount of stock on hand at any given time, right? You can't sell from an empty cart. Part of what an ERP does beyond just string together those processes is open the door for analytics. So now you can see what your best-selling products are across different channels. You know which suppliers can supply in, you know, the best lead time or adhere best to their professed lead time. You know, so you're able to make intelligent business decisions across all of your individual processes because they're all tied together, and now they can be analyzed, and your facts can come out and you can make the proper business decisions.
Yeah, and Mark, you know, when the shipment goes out, when the shipment goes out through ShipStation, if there is a problem when it arrives at the customer, when the customer contacts customer service, of course the records are already in there, and customer service knows who that customer is. They know when it was shipped. They know what was shipped, and it helps to, you know, resolve it more rapidly into the customer satisfaction, which of course produces higher ratings, right? And brand experience.
Exactly. And I think you know, on the analytics side, you know, keeping in mind, you know, shipping costs and things like that. You know, it's important to capture that so that you become more effective on determining what you should charge as a merchant for shipping costs, or can you make it happen? Can you make free shipping happen? You know, all those determinations are based on good data and having that system of record.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I don't see any further questions come in. So I think we'll give folks back maybe a little bit of time today. But I wanted to end it with just saying thank you to the SAP team. Wanted to leave Brian with a couple of more resources to chat about, but on behalf of ShipStation, of course, thank you for the expertise, and we're really looking forward to seeing this partnership be fruitful for all our merchants.
Thanks, everyone.